What if I told you she never loved you the way you loved her? Would you break apart, or would you finally wake up? Not just from the fantasy, but from the version of yourself you were pretending to be. Because every man will face a moment when he is brought to his knees by a woman who said all the right things, who touched all the right places in his soul, and then vanished as if it never meant anything. That moment, that silence, is when most men fall apart. But the few, the very few, turn that pain into power. That's what this is about. This isn't another get her back video. No, this is about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to be chosen because he chooses himself. A man who's done explaining, done chasing, done trying to fix someone else's broken loyalty. This is about the Stoic path, not emotional numbness, but emotional mastery. You're going to learn how to detach without becoming cold, how to care without being controlled, how to lead yourself so no one else can mislead you again. See, pain is a teacher, but only if you shut up and listen. You've been lied to, by her maybe, but definitely by the part of you that thought she was the one. There is no one. There's only you and the strength you build after she leaves. You don't become the man she can't replace by posting quotes and hitting the gym twice. You do it by burning down every week. Part of yourself that needed her to feel like a man in the first place. This journey is brutal. You'll cry. You'll want to call her. You'll think about every memory like it was a movie you can't stop watching. But then one day, the fire stops burning you and starts burning through you. That's when you become a problem. That's when she feels it, because she will feel it. They always do. And by then, it's too late. If you're done living in the wreckage of what was, if you're ready to start building who you really are, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I rise from the ashes. Now let's begin. Number 1. She was never yours, only your illusion. Let's get one thing straight. She was never yours. Not really. What you had was a projection, a fantasy stitched together by late-night conversations, soft moments, and that desperate hope she'd be different. But that hope wasn't about her. It was about you. About the version of her your mind created because it was easier than facing the truth. Stoicism teaches one brutal lesson right out of the gate. You don't control people, only your perception of them. And when your perception is warped by desire, you start worshipping potential instead of reality. You ignored the red flags. You excused the cold responses. You justified the distance. Why? Because deep down you weren't afraid of losing her. You were afraid of facing who you'd be without her. That's the illusion. That's the trap. She didn't break you. She exposed that you were building your identity around someone else. You were measuring your worth through her approval. And when that approval vanished, so did your sense of self. But now, it's time to kill the illusion. Not with anger, but with clarity. You never had control over her choices, her loyalty, her love. But you do have control over the way you respond now. You have control over how long you keep suffering over a story that's already ended. The Stoic man accepts the world as it is, not as he wishes it to be. And once you do that, her power over you disappears. This is your first step. Reclaim your mind, reclaim your energy. Stop trying to rewrite the past and start rewriting yourself. Number 2. Pain is the portal. Walk through it. Heartbreak hurts. It's supposed to. Pain is the invoice for the lessons you refused to learn while you were still in the fantasy. Most men run from it. They bury it under distractions, new women, fake smiles, gym selfies, and fake "I'm good" responses. But every time you avoid the pain, you give it power. Stoicism says, don't run, sit with it, study it, use it. See, pain is a forge, but it only works if you step into the fire willingly. You've got to stop asking why it happened and start asking what it's here to teach you. Because that ache in your chest, that's your ego dying. That's the version of you that thought he needed her to be whole, getting stripped away. And what comes out on the other side is something sharper, harder, cleaner. Dark psychology shows us something else. People who master their pain, who alchemize it, become unpredictable. Why? Because they're no longer reactive. They're dangerous in the best way. Not because they harm others, but because no one can control them through emotion anymore. That's where the real power is. Not in pretending you don't care, but in caring and still not folding. When you walk through your pain, when you own it, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing it, you stop fearing anything. That's when the world starts bending in your direction. Not because it owes you, but because you're no longer begging. So don't numb it, don't mask it. Sit in that fire until it stops burning and starts building. Number 3, cut the cord. Emotional detachment is power. The moment you stop needing her to come back is the moment she starts wondering if she ever mattered. But that's not the point. The real point is this. Attachment is the enemy of peace. You weren't suffering because she left. You were suffering because you clung. You gripped the relationship like a man hanging off a cliff, hoping love would pull you back up. But Stoicism doesn't beg, it releases. Because attachment is dependency, and dependency is weakness. Detachment isn't about being cold, it's about being in control. You can love deeply and still walk away when your self-respect is on the line. You can feel the loss and not let it define you. Most men think being alpha means being emotionless. Nope, it means mastering emotion like a sword, drawing it when it's useful, sheathing it when it's not. Emotional detachment gives you leverage, not over her, but over yourself. It's the discipline to not text her at midnight, the strength to not check her socials, the control to let the silence sit. When she sees you not chasing, not explaining, not reacting, it shakes her because silence from a man who once gave everything is louder than 1,000 words. This is where your transformation begins. The emotional cord is cut. No more feeding her ego. No more begging for closure. You are not hers to access. You are not an emotional ATM. You are not a rehab center for her confusion. Detachment is your boundary, and boundaries are what build king. Number 4, control the narrative. Silence is a weapon. You don't owe her a final message. You don't owe her an explanation. You don't owe her a damn thing. In fact, the most powerful move you can make right now is nothing. No closure talk, no angry texts, no half-hearted friendship offers, just silence. Because silence isn't weakness, it's strategy, and when used correctly, it becomes the most unsettling answer of all. See, the mind hates a vacuum. When you go silent, you force her to fill in the blanks. Was he hurt? There's a note for. The nose is at the. Is he okay? Has he moved on? That uncertainty becomes your armor. Stoicism teaches us not to react. Not because we don't feel, but because not every emotion deserves an audience. The more still you are, the more unpredictable you become. That's power. In dark psychology, it's called mystique, the ability to control perception without saying a word. Most men think they'll win her back by being mature and open. Nope, she doesn't miss what's accessible, she misses what's absent. Every time you reach out, you kill a bit of that mystique. Every time you post hoping she'll see it, you give away leverage. Want her attention? Stop trying to get it. Want to shift the narrative? Disappear from hers. Let your silence echo louder than the last argument. Let her wonder why the man who once gave her the world now won't even give her a reaction. Because that version of you, the one she took for granted, is dead. And in his place is someone she no longer knows how to read. Number 5. The comeback is cold, not loud. The best revenge isn't a glow-up. It's becoming so calm, so focused, so unreachable that she starts to wonder if she ever meant anything at all. But let's be clear, this isn't about trying to win a breakup. This is about building a life so solid, so stoic, that you don't need anyone's validation to feel valuable. Your comeback isn't for her, it's for you. And it should be cold, not loud. Quiet power is the kind that lasts. You see, weak men need the world to know they're doing better. They chase applause, flash success, and post for attention. But that's still emotional slavery, just dressed in designer clothes. Stoic men level up in silence. They let results speak. No announcements, no flexes, just work, discipline, elevation. Dark psychology says that unpredictability creates intrigue. When you go dark, when you disappear from her radar and stop broadcasting your every move, she can't place you anymore. That creates tension. That tension becomes curiosity. And that curiosity becomes regret. But by then, you won't care because your power doesn't come from her noticing you. It comes from you not needing her to. You don't need to become a new man for her to see what she lost. You become a new man because the old one let himself be broken. You rebuild in silence. You move with intention. And when you walk into the room months from now, cold, calm, unbothered, she'll feel it in her spine. Number 6. Become the scar, not the wound. There's a difference between a man who's wounded and a man who's scarred. Wounds are open, raw, easy to touch. They bleed when you poke them. But scars are closed, hardened. They tell a story without saying a word. You want to become the scar, not the wound. Because as long as you're still bleeding, she still has power. And Stoicism doesn't allow that. This heartbreak, it's not your weakness, it's your rite of passage. But only if you stop licking the wound and start learning from it. Too many men stay stuck in the pain loop, replaying memories, rereading texts, wondering what went wrong. You know what went wrong, you ignored the signs. You gave too much. You became the wound and forgot how to protect yourself. But scars are trophies. They say, I've been broken, but I'm still here. They don't hide the past, they master it. Dark psychology tells us that people respect what they can't shake. When she looks at you and sees no trace of the man she walked away from, no begging, no bitterness, no desperation, just stillness, that's when the regret hits. You don't talk about what she did. You don't bring her name up. You don't try to convince anyone how hurt you were. You don't need to. The glow of a man who survived something heavy without losing himself is undeniable. You become solid, unshakable, not cold, just untouchable. From this moment forward, you're not the victim of heartbreak. You're the product of it, sharper, stronger, smarter. You're not leaking pain, you're radiating growth. Number 7. Build a life she can't enter. The best closure is a locked door she no longer has the key to. You don't block her out of spite. You don't erase her out of anger. You build a life she can't step into. Not because she's not allowed, but because she's no longer relevant. That's the Stoic move. You outgrow the room she used to take up in your mind, not by erasing her name, but by building something so big, so complete. Her presence no longer fits. This is where most men mess up. They build in reaction to the breakup. They chase status, money, even other women just to prove something. Nope, that's not power, that's performance. You don't build a life because of her, you build it in spite of what happened. You build it because that version of you who needed her is gone. Your focus now is legacy. Crafting a daily routine so dialed in that she wouldn't even recognize the man who used to wait for her replies. Create a social circle so solid that her name never comes up. Cultivate skills, mastery, and habits that make you undeniable. Because once you start thriving from the inside out, the outside world loses its grip on you, including her. And here's the dark psychological edge. When she sees that the life you're building doesn't include her, even hypothetically, it cuts deeper than any insult. She doesn't just feel forgotten, she feels replaced by purpose. And that is something no message, no apology, no second chance can compete with. You don't need revenge, you need vision. She walked out? Fine. Now build a world so whole that her presence would feel like a downgrade. Number 8. Master your eyes, the window to emotional control. Your eyes will betray you before your words ever do. That's why the Stoic man doesn't just control what he says, he controls what he shows. You can say you've moved on, you can act unbothered. But if your eyes are scanning the room for her, checking her stories, lighting up when she walks in, she'll see it and she'll know. Control slips, power leaks, and the game ends. But when your gaze is calm, still, grounded, and unshaken, everything changes. The eyes are the gateway to the mind. If yours are locked in, not searching, not darting, not reacting, she'll feel like she's looking into something untouchable. That's unnerving, and that's power. Because nothing is more unsettling to someone who left you than realizing you don't need to look back. Stoicism trains you to master your internal state, but it's not just about what's happening inside. It's about projecting that control externally. Eye contact isn't just dominance, it's detachment. It says, I see you, but I don't need. When you can look at her dead in the eyes and show no flicker of need, no hint of regret, she'll feel that weight, she'll feel your evolution. Dark psychology confirms this. People are drawn to what they can't read. Mystery triggers attraction, stillness creates curiosity. Emotional restraint in the eyes creates distance that feels dangerous and irresistible. But by then, it's not about her anymore, it's about what you've become. So train your gaze, own your presence, say less with your mouth and more with your energy. Number 9, reverse the game. Let her feel the absence. You want to make an impact? Leave completely. Not in anger, not in drama, just disappear. The truth is, people don't appreciate what they don't lose. And she hasn't felt the real loss yet because you're still lingering, still watching, still available in some way. But the moment you vanish without explanation, the power dynamic flips. That's when the game reverses. Stoicism teaches us to detach. Not just emotionally, but physically, socially, and digitally. You withdraw your presence like a man taking back his crown, not to manipulate, but to reclaim space, because your energy is not a gift she gets to hold without effort. When she chose to walk away, she forfeited access. No updates, no reactions, no trace of you. And in that silence, in that void, she starts to feel it, the gravity of your absence. Dark psychology operates on the principle of scarcity. When something is suddenly unavailable, it gains perceived value, and the mind starts spiraling with questions. Why did he go silent? Who is he becoming? Does he even care anymore? You don't answer those questions, you let them fester. That's your revenge, if you even still want to call it that. Because by the time she reaches out, you won't need the validation. Her regret won't change you. It'll just confirm what you already knew. She lost something she didn't understand. Disappearance creates mystery, and mystery becomes obsession. But again, it's not about her, it's about liberation. You're not waiting for her to notice. You're moving so far past her, so far into your new path. She'd need a telescope to see who you've become. Number 10. The irreplaceable man is alone, not lonely. Here's the final truth, and the one most men run from. You have to learn how to be alone, not just tolerate it. Master it, because the man who fears solitude is the man who can be controlled. The man who thrives in solitude becomes irreplaceable. That's the Stoic path, the end game. Not noise, not chaos, not attention, but peace. You weren't broken by her leaving, you were exposed to your own neediness, your own emotional dependency. And now you've stripped all that away. You sat in the silence, you felt the pain. You've rebuilt from ground zero. And here you are, alone, but not empty. Alone, but full of direction, discipline, and dangerous calm. Stoicism doesn't teach men to stop loving. It teaches them to stop needing. Because the second you need something outside yourself to feel whole, you've already lost. That includes her validation and every fantasy about reconciliation. The old man is gone. The new you walks forward with nothing in his hands and everything in his heart. And here's what they never tell you. Being irreplaceable isn't about being the best looking, the richest, or the most successful. It's about being the most centered. The man who can't be shaken, who can sit in a room with no one to impress and still feel powerful because he knows his worth, because he knows his path, and because he's no longer waiting for anyone to walk it with him. You don't chase, you don't wait, you don't beg, you build. And one day, someone will come across the man you've become and realize they could never fill that silence you've mastered. So now you know this isn't about getting her back, it never was. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't break when she leaves, but builds. The man who doesn't chase closure, doesn't react out of emotion, and doesn't spiral in the absence. He watches the fire burn and walks through it untouched. That's Stoic power. That's how you become the man she can't replace. Because you no longer need to be chosen to know your worth. You've cut the cord. You've embraced the pain. You've mastered your emotions, your presence, your silence, and now you're not just healed, you're different, sharper, calmer, colder. She left thinking you'd fall apart. Instead, you became something unrecognizable, something unreachable. And that right there is the ultimate shift from being forgotten to becoming unforgettable. Keep walking forward. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Because the only thing louder than your pain is your silence after it. If you're ready to step fully into that power, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I am the man she can't replace. Thanks for watching, where we don't chase approval, we build power. Stay sharp, stay grounded. And remember, your silence, your discipline, your peace, that's what makes you irreplaceable.